Hi and welcome to another episode of Finance and Stocks. Today we're going to focus on the latest comment from the Vice President of USA, J.D. Vance, and how this might affect the relationship between the United States of America and Europe, especially the European Union. As we know, there are a lot of trades between our regions and a lot of money involved, a lot of benefits for both USA and Europe, even though that might not sound like the case from the Trump administration. We should know that a country that is very wealthy often has a trade deficit because they can afford it and they buy better products to cheaper prices like pharmaceuticals, machinery, chemicals, etc. So United States has really benefited a lot from these type of products from Europe. And basically I think now they are starting to be more aggressive in the comments towards Europe as a whole. And in this speech, J.D. Vance actually attacked Europe in terms of their democracy, saying there's an enemy within that is more dangerous than Vladimir Putin for Europe, and also flirting with the far right in Germany. It's kind of the feeling that the USA are trying to impose their beliefs on Europe and their Republican beliefs, and that won't work at all. There are a lot of differences there. So I think the comments here might put the leadership in Europe off a bit and might cause some problems in terms of the relationship. And we have also seen comments earlier from the Trump administration about tariffs, etc. So it will be very interesting to follow this argument and discussions because the macro events long term are important when you invest in the stock market, and you should always be up to date, even though you should not be too involved. It's always interesting to have that long-term perspective. So therefore I think it's important content. Anyway, before I start the video here, just click a like and subscribe if you want to support the channel to grow, and also the notification button so you don't miss new videos. Anyway, let's hear what J.D. Vance has to say about the Europe, etc.
Zelensky says the damage was significant, but he says there are not currently signs of increased radiation. Amid all of this, the Vice President of the United States managed to make things even more confusing, making his own sort of rookie moves on his own first trip abroad. He told the Wall Street Journal that the U.S. would potentially take military action in the war in Ukraine. As in, U.S. troops in Ukraine? Everybody in this administration seems to be taking the approach that they should just say whatever pops into their head and try cleaning it up later. Vice President Vance said that the Wall Street Journal had twisted his word.
You can tell that MSNBC here might not be like the Republican-leaning news kind of news, but still the information is valid because this is what actually happened in Munich, in Europe recently. And even though I don't vote either Democrat or Republican in the USA, and I don't have like a certain leaning, I will always follow up on the information, and I will be critical if I feel that something might not be in the benefit of the world and that might cause problems for the market as a whole, because obviously this channel is focused on the finance of things and the stocks.
The Wall Street Journal does not appear to have conceded they've done any such thing. Joining us now from Munich, Germany, is former ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, who has stayed up till dark 30 to be with us tonight in the middle of the night. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure to be on with you, Rachel.
These remarks from Pete Hegseth at the outset here, speaking with NATO leaders, were obviously not just damaging, but embarrassing.
Hegseth, he was talking about how Ukraine should let Russia get like Donetsk and Crimea and some parts of Ukraine, like a lot of areas, And it might be easy for the United States to say such a thing, but what if Canada was attacking Alaska, for example, and they were very strong military, and it was like quite even fight and a long war, and like China going in and talked to USA and said, well, you should just give Canada Alaska to end the war because they already has the upper hand in this specific area, so let's just save life and give them Alaska. It's no problems. That would be ridiculous, but that's kind of what's happening in Ukraine now, and I feel like USA are just tired of the war and sending resources there, but Ukraine won't accept like a crazy deal like that. So we need to see a lot of improvement, a lot of better, more up-to-date views on this war if United States wants to be like the peacemaker. They want to be the peacemaker, but they need to have a better bid. I know they also said Ukraine should give Russia a lot of areas in Ukraine, and also USA should get a lot of minerals worth of like 15,000 billions of dollars. So Zelensky was like, oh, this is not a deal at the moment. So we will see. They will keep talking, I guess. And yeah, Europe is obviously left out of the talks at the moment. So that is also maybe problematic in terms of the relationship between the United States and the European Union. And that might cause some problems in terms of the trading between the countries and the relationship as a whole. So we will see. I mean, NATO is also important, stably having to stabilize the world. And if USA are being this aggressive and talking the way they are, there might be some instability that can open up opportunities for foreign powers like China and Russia, etc. So let's just wait and see, and don't overreact on the situation. Let the Trump administration do their best, and we will see if they can improve the bid, etc. Anyway, let's continue to Jada Vance's comments.
And he then tried to take them back. We're in sort of a different situation with remarks that have since been made there by Vice President Vance. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Vice President Vance's speech there and how it was received.
Well, first, it was just a rookie mistake is very generous. I've negotiated with the Russians before. They're tough negotiators, and you don't just capitulate and give them what they want before you start the negotiations. And the vice president could have clarified things today at the Munich Security Conference. He could have devoted his speech to saying what the United States position is, what the Trump administration official position is, to try to clean it up. But instead, he gave a speech about how democracy is failing in Europe. He said that was a bigger threat to Europe than Russia or China. And he said that in a room filled with generals and admirals and Ukrainian soldiers. And again, I don't need to tell you, Rachel, the irony of the vice president of the United States, who works for President Trump, telling the Europeans that they're doing a bad job at democracy, given what we are going through right now and given what we went through 4 years ago, really was quite insulting for this audience. So
I can agree with the gentleman here. I mean, that's a very, very, very arrogant thing to say, especially as the new vice president. I don't know if Jada Vance doesn't understand this type of game. Obviously, we know Elon Musk has also talked a lot to the far right in Germany and tweeted bad things about Europe for like a couple of months already. So yeah, it's a problematic situation where it feels like instead of cooperate with Europe, it feels like the Republicans want to destabilize Europe to gain power, and that won't work. I mean, Europe is very wealthy, a lot of people are living here, etc. So yeah, let's just continue and listen here and see what happens.
it was a great opportunity to say clearly what their position was, and instead he chose to lecture them about democracy.
I also understand that Vice President Vance made the decision in Germany at this meeting to not meet with the German Chancellor and instead to meet with the leaders of Germany's far-right party, AfD, which is viewed by...
And again, AfD, the far right, is... I mean, it's kind of crazy that he's doing that type of move, and we also know that Elon Musk had a kind of a speech to AfD, so things are really turning ugly here. Republicans are really pushing far right in Europe, and this won't bode well for the relationship between the USA and Europe, and the far right movement, they won't like win in the whole Europe. They won't take over the European Union. So I don't know why they are pushing so hard for these kind of things. And also this argument the Trump administration doing about the trade deficit, like it's about 150 to 200 billion dollars in trade deficit between in the United States in favor of the European Union, like it's something bad. I mean, it's something good because the United States has been richer, and they have bought products to provide like pharmaceuticals, machinery, etc. for their people, making living cheaper and better in USA. Also, what they don't count in the trade balance, that metric, it's an old metric, is like the data. All the big tech like Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, etc., that collect a lot of personal data that is like the worth of that is immeasurable. It doesn't even count in the trade balance act. So I mean, if we count like that type of value, like information data, etc., I guess the United States are probably on a surplus instead of a deficit in trade balance. But we doesn't talk about that because it's old metrics. It's not that kind of data isn't counted in the trade balance. So anyway, I'm just saying that it's not any unfair deal in Europe as some people in the United States are pushing at the moment. It's better to cooperate and talk about things the straight way, the correct way, which is the truth. We should not push lies if we want a great relationship and functioning stock market long term with a lot of trades, a lot of great companies, etc. That's my opinion.
Many Germans as sort of unsettling inheritors of the legacy of the Nazi Party, frankly. What do you make of this decision? Is this a logistics decision, or is this a loud message? And if so, how is it being heard?
Definitely not a logistics decision problem. Anybody that the vice president wanted to meet with, he could. But it underscores the other message of his speech. His speech was basically adopt our interpretation of values, right? MAGA values. And again, these guys, there's a big contradiction. They talk about sovereignty all the time, but when it comes to German sovereignty, they're perfectly willing to get involved. There's elections here in just a few days here in Germany. And it was not well received. I've been to this conference many, many times. I cannot recall a speech that so many people were so insulted by.
Mike, the news out of Ukraine today, this video that we've seen of this drone with what appears to be a high explosive warhead on it smashing into the containment dome, the sort of sarcophagus that covers the highly radioactive Chernobyl nuclear disaster site. Those images are so chilling and so unsettling. Can I just ask your reaction to that? Ukraine claims this is a Russian military drone. Russia is essentially disclaiming responsibility for it. How are you viewing this?
Well, Rich, I spend most of my day today with Ukrainians, including soldiers. They're fighting, and they fought courageously for 3 years. But when they hear our president say that he trusts Vladimir Putin and that he's going to do a deal with Vladimir Putin and then present it to the Ukrainian people, and they experience what you were just showing your viewers, there's a lot of dissonance there. They don't trust Putin. Putin is their enemy, and it makes them very nervous when the president of the United States, who they need and rely on to continue to fight against the Russians, are saying he trusts Putin.
Former ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, joining us tonight live from Munich, where it is 3:30 in the morning.
Okay, so that's about the information I'm gonna show you from Munich. And yeah, the last thing here just means that it's harder to break a deal piece for the Trump administration in between Russia and Ukraine. It would be like a great thing to accomplish, but they are not there. They are far from there. They must understand that Ukraine don't really want to give up any of their land, which is not crazy because who wants that? Europe understand that already that they are going to have to increase the spending on military, and they can't trust the US as much anymore. Maybe that's a good thing for the United States because they have a lot of deficits, economic deficits and some inflation problems. You can listen to Ray Dalio more about that. So maybe they can't afford to just continue give Ukraine a lot of weapons and money, etc. So now they're trying to say that, well, we have given you so much, you have to pay back in some type of way. They're trying to use what the Biden administration did as leverage now to gain access to minerals, etc. in Ukraine, and it won't be that easy. You can also watch Lex Friedman's interview with Zelensky, where you did see Zelensky push against this MAGA kind of beliefs about the war in Ukraine, and telling basically Lex that it's a very naive thing to to think that Ukraine are just gonna give up some land. You have to put yourself into their situation. I remember myself being in Ukraine 2012 when it was the European Championship in football, just like a normal country, well functioning, and now crazy things going on, and they should just give up their land. Why should they give up the land if they still can get a lot of money from other European countries, if they can improve their military, etc. And don't forget that they also had the nukes before, which they gave back to Russia, and Russia promised they would never attack them, and now they have. So how can you trust Russia in this situation if you are a Ukrainian? So you have to think about that. Anyway, what do I think about all this information in terms of the stock market? I don't think it will affect the stock market too much in the short term. In the long term, it's not good if European Union and United States are starting to have a war of trade with high tariffs. If they start to distrust each other, stop to buy each other's products, because in the end of the day, it's the consumer who will get less great products, higher prices. The inflation will get higher, maybe inflation also, but that if the inflation will get higher, and maybe that will also make it harder for some industrial companies who buys parts to their machinery from abroad to keep providing cheap product and solutions to the end consumer. So long term, it can possess some problems. It's always hard if you have too much protectionism and nationalism that can short term drive some benefits for your country, but long term, if every country did that, what we know is if every country did that, it won't work. It will just make the markets go sour. So you sure, maybe United States can do this for 8 to 12 years to reduce the spending, get the financials in a better place for the states, but after that I think they need to go back to being more cooperative with other countries. Anyway, we don't know how much this is just tactics and how much it is the real deal. We know that Trump said we're gonna smash some tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and then he backed away from that. So we don't know how much is tactics and how much is real. It's that typical unpredictable kind of Trump we see here, and it could be good, it could be bad. We should obviously give him a chance because the United States have voted for Republicans, but I think a lot of things they have done, like taking back, removing with the douche, consumer protection, etc., the US aid, they are just showing us the bad things US aid have done, but they remove everything, so they don't really show the good things they did. So a lot of things is probably maybe hurt by the vote. I mean, the voters, a lot of them who voted for Republicans might think that also is a bit problematic. But anyway, if they long term provide a great economic growth for the United States, decrease the inflation, and they actually can be a peacemaker both in Gaza and in the Russia and Ukraine war, things will turn pretty quick, and the Trump administration will be hailed as heroes. So you never know. You should just follow the situation. Don't be angry. Keep calm. Don't sell your portfolio based on macroeconomic events short term. Just analyze the situation long term. What we can say is, for example, that Warren Buffett has started to decrease his stakes in banks, for example. So we have to keep track of some moves here from the big guns in the investment space to don't miss anything. Anyway, thank you very much for listening today. It was a great time, and I hope I see you